Messages of Oneness by earthfriendlylife.net. Oneness is one of the most elementary, elegant, and important messages in our lives. As it is with many of life's simple things, sometimes our unity can be difficult to remember. It can easily be set aside if we don't hold a conscious awareness of it. It can feel miles apart from the distracted mind, so relating to it can be difficult. Its simplicity can make it appear trivial in the face of overcomplicated modern concerns. But oneness is anything but trivial. There are little truths and big truths in life. Oneness is a big truth that should be an essential focus. When I meditate on oneness, try to absorb its message and let it sink in, I can feel it resonate on a cellular level from an inner guide, as though my soul has known it all along. I feel it as a big truth because it echoes harmony, wholeness, creation, elegance, and it is empowering. Oneness is an absolute truth rather than a relative truth. In the Buddhist definition, relative truth is transitory, fleeting, impermanent, and therefore not substantively real, whereas absolute truth is foundational, formless, permanent, encompasses all things through unity, and is free from duality. At this level of certainty, the concrete, tangible realities that make up our changing material world can be seen to be ephemeral illusions, whereas transcendent absolute truths like wholeness endure. The Kabbalah teaches of our united origin. It tells us how, through the creation of lights, God extended into other planes. It was by means of these lights that the divine nature of God manifested into the final plane, the material. These divine lights contain complete perfection, balance, order, harmony, and unity. These lights, to this day, are continuously moving and growing. They are busy balancing and ordering the dark disorder that surrounds them. The structure that the harmonizing is carried through with is called the Tree of Life, and it consists of the lights of the Sephiroth. Each person has a miniature tree of life within that can be awakened. We grow spiritually and transmute negation through this structure. The Kabbalah teaches that our souls are sparks of the God light, and their purpose is to order the dark, inharmonious light, allowing it to return to the God source, to the torchbearer of insupportable brightness. The motivating force for this soul work is love and the desire for unity. The transmuting of darkness adds to the God light, working to make it harmonious and whole, united once again. So, what starts to happen when we recognize our interconnection? We feel compassion for each other. We see our similarities rather than differences. We cannot be divided and turned against one another. We believe we all have the same right to respectfully exist. We realize there are no hierarchies that artificially make some more valuable than others. We aim to bring all up, not just ourselves or one group above others. We help everyone. We withhold judgment on our other selves. We strive for peace. When we see the divine within each, we recognize our power to co-create together. It allows us to tap into the divine plan harmoniously together. It empowers us to make changes in our world. We realize there is no other to blame, for we have collectively created the circumstances we find ourselves in. We recognize that each and all need to act to make changes, and we regain our real power. To reach higher spiritual levels, oneness has to be at the heart of everything, at all times. not just in act or deed, but in our hearts and minds. Here's some teachings on oneness from various religions. Namaste is a Hindu Sanskrit greeting. It means the divine in me honors the divine in you. Buddhist teachings say that we must raise all up. We must help each other. Since we are all one, we are helping our other selves. The simple act of helping others is a sacred gift, affecting all. The Sufis say there is no such thing as the self. There is only God. You are the veil that separates yourself from God. Sufi teacher Llewellyn Van Lee says your heart is the heart of the world. There is no other. What Liddy Speck of the Namgis community shared with me the concept of Namatla, which means the oneness on your face. It is a lens to look through to see our relationship to the world as one. It is to share breath and spirit. The Tao speaks of combining ourselves with the Tao and becoming one. In Colossians 3:14, it is said, "And above all these, put on love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony." We might need reminders of our unity. Though oneness is a significant truth, it is not pushy, and sometimes even the most profound things can go unnoticed. Unity is reflected in the calm, the peace, the joy, the meaning, and the belonging in life. Love helps us to remember the message of oneness. We need to cultivate a healthy level of self-love. We need to recognize and love the Creator inside us before we can know our connection with all things. We need to give our quiet, still soul voice the opportunity to remind us of our divinity. Then we can see and greet the divine within each and all. Perhaps we could make it work in reverse, where we see the divine in the world, in all others, and then finally accept that it must exist within our own person. Perhaps for some, this might be their journey. Lightheartedness and play remind us of our connection by bridging the gap between people and even other species. It is a universal language that most animals engage in. People could do it more. It makes us more empathetic, sociable, smarter, resilient, and less controlled by emotions. Both ancient and modern-day spiritual teachers have expressed the need to conquer fear, the greatest enemy of all, in order to be at peace and to grow spiritually. We are told that at the core of everything, the most powerful force is love. Expressing love can lead us to know harmony, peace, deeper meaning, and unity. If we follow the news, we are bombarded with stories that make us fearful of losing something: our safety, health, things we value. These ideas, when absorbed, become a part of our belief system, and the fear breeds anger, poor interactions, and an us-them dual mentality. It promotes the division of people and the inability to remember our commonalities and oneness. On a physiological level, fear shuts down the blood flow to our cerebral cortex, so we lack the ability to plan, have insight, stay calm, and think clearly. Our actions become directed by our reactionary, protective, and primitive amygdala. Chronic fear leads to increased neural connection to the reactionary brain and a shrinking of those in the frontal cortex, so fear begets more fear. Exposure to negativity has to be kept in check, and we always have the ability to choose to respond to circumstances with love rather than fear. There is a battle going on against our joy, and succumbing to fear places limitations on our growth and weakens the bonds of our unity. Overcoming fear is a challenge that we must face if we desire to experience the essence of oneness. The lower emotions barricade us from unity. How can we see others as brothers and sisters without forgiveness, or when grudges, anger, judgment, and fear prevail? Negativity and imbalanced emotions create weakness and inhibit us from experiencing vibrant health, happiness, and oneness. We cannot be ruled by our emotions. In a similar way to how fear begets more fear, negative thoughts lead to the creation of more negative thoughts. In one study, entitled Compassionate Communication, people with fewer than 3 positive thoughts to every negative one were found to be depressed, irritated, and angry. These lower negative ideas and emotions prevent us from connecting to others and to our authentic selves. Negative thoughts make us lose touch with what is right, just, true, and congruous. They cause mistrust in our intuition and our innermost perceptions. When we accept negative, false belief sets, we become inclined to believe deceptive justifications for destructive acts, even war. Unity becomes the farthest thing from our minds. Another barrier, similar to not loving oneself, is not having faith in ourselves or God. When we believe God holds all the power and that we are helpless, we don't recognize our individual and collective divinity, and we create a schism that is difficult to overcome. When we believe we have little power, we live separated from our authentic selves, others, and God as a whole. When we have little faith in God, life has no deep meaning, and harmony and unity is lost. When we can make a connection to the divine within and all around, we tap into an infinite supply of internal faith. Faith allows us to relinquish fear and thereby live in harmony with the people and world at large. When we recognize that everyone and everything is connected to the same divine wellspring, we seek to lift up not only oneself, but all. We focus on similarities and foster peace. When we live in service to others and aim to raise everyone's consciousness, all benefit from the universal harmony established. Separation is a difficult lesson, especially when darkness touches us personally. I have a neighbor who has treated me horribly, in spite of trying to repeatedly smooth things over with her, and it hits me hard when I think, oh geez, I'm her and she's me. I remind myself that our polarity and division is illusory, and that in the grand divine plan, ultimately, we are all one. Her shadow side is my shadow side too. I need to have compassion, for her separation and suffering is also mine. The darkness challenges our oneness and requires us to go more deeply to find our connections. It teaches us to be more spiritual. The negative greetings in life can act as catalyst to help us grow. For all the trouble the darkness creates, its existence provides us with the ability to know our goodness and light. Only in opposition can we truly recognize qualities at both ends of the spectrum. Only in the face of trials can we resolve to confront the evil within ourselves and bravely encourage others to do the same. As we evolve, we can transcend duality by transmuting darkness, at first individually and then all of humanity, as we become ever more conscious of our oneness. Carl Jung believed our shadow sides need to be faced, accepted, and integrated into our consciousness to create a harmonious whole. When we acknowledge, assimilate, and transmute our own darkness, we can become a force for positive change. We won't attune with the disorder in any way. We have the free will to choose to make all decisions from a place within us of goodness and love, seeking divine harmony. This is contagious and will encourage others and inspire them to do the same. When there is no enemy within, the enemies outside cannot hurt you. An African proverb. For those who seek to preserve their individual identity, there is nothing to fear in establishing a connection to universal consciousness. Our individual identities cannot be lost. Rather, they become enhanced and bettered through association with Divine Source. The man-made material world doesn't foster deep spiritual understanding and connection. Sadly, it encourages many superficial, illusory, and egotistical ideals. It promotes the acquisition of things, the subjugation of some, and extrinsic hollow goals. It falsely encourages empty pride, swollen egos, and declarations of judgment. These are illusory ideas that don't arise from the forces of light and goodness. They encourage division and separation from each other, from our divine nature, and they cut us off from our God source. When we contemplate what really matters, we see through the ruse and bring into focus the importance of unity. In light of our connectedness, one can see the folly of divisive emotions and ideals. No one is better than another, deserves more than another, or has the right to impose directive over another. No one way of living is right for all, and no rigid rules or dogmatic teachings should be enforced upon others. These ideas keep us in a fog of artifice, unable to see the light, goodness, interconnectedness, and value in all. Pride barricades us from the truth held in our soul, and is a lure that can sabotage even the most well-meaning people. If we allow ideas of self-importance and selfishness to cloud our thinking, we will lose our way, sacrifice our authentic gifts, and forget truths like oneness. Edgar Cayce said that if a motivation behind an action is self-seeking, self-gratifying, or self-exalting, despite how good the action itself may appear, it gives rise to the forces of evil. He stated self-centered beliefs serve to heighten the sense of separation of self from the whole and are a rebellion against the harmony of the flow of creation. We need to remember that no one is more worthy than another. Everyone holds the same connection to the divine. Everyone has the same powers within, however latent they are. The fact is that we are all learning, improving, and struggling at times. Often the more we learn, the more we become aware that there is so much we don't understand. No one has all the answers, but when we come together, we hold more of the answers within ourselves and our collective, and we become more expansive and cosmically minded. Celebrities and famous individuals often have immense adulation and also face harsh criticism. These critics might be what some people need to keep their pride in check. Perhaps for them, they can be a blessing in disguise. The Tao Te Ching writes of how the light of the Tao seems dark, that the Taoist can only be seen with great difficulty. They don't seek to stand out and identify themselves in public or display their inner power. The Taoist glows, but glows with a contained light, the dark light of spirit. Our connection and oneness is not limited to other humans. It is extended to all of creation, to all of life, and to all of nature. Unity is not an abstract concept. It is not relegated to only the highest planes of existence. It permeates and fortifies all levels of reality. We must allow ourselves to feel it on a spiritual level, to sense it on an etheric level, to know it on a mental level, and to live it on a material level. Oneness is not for some of us only. Oneness is for all. It cannot and does not exclude. The idea that we are separate from nature has brought us to a state where we have carelessly treated her. We should recognize now that our reckless actions against nature have directly affected our well-being and health, and the livability of all on the greater being, our planet. Here's a quote by David Bohm from Wholeness and the Implicate Order. The attempt to live according to the notion that the fragments are really separate is, in essence, what has led to the growing series of extremely urgent crises that is confronting us today. Indeed, man has always been seeking wholeness, mental, physical, social, and individual. When considering the state of our world, science doesn't hold all of the answers. Though a useful tool, it is fragmented, as it has a tendency to consider only small portions of things. In its aim to control factors, to isolate a sliver of reality, and to examine it from a narrow material view, it limits itself. So scientific results are valid under only certain parameters, and findings can't be extended once the barriers are expanded. Nothing is merely the sum of its examined parts. There is an informing structure that needs to be observed in its integrity. Our holistic intuition holds useful wisdom that respects the integrity of the whole and can help in guiding us and finding answers. There is valuable information compressed in our feelings, deserving of trust, and just waiting to be tapped into. This inner knowledge, in the form of hunches and visceral understanding, is the synthesis of much information from all around us and from all sources. It is aligned with a consciousness of connection and unity. Go into nature and cultivate affinity for that which nourishes, stimulates our senses, and comforts our soul. Nature will feel it and respond to your gratitude in kind. It will seek to remind you of your origin and connection. All parts of the earth, no matter how small or seemingly inanimate, are permeated with a spiritual sentience. Let the tapestry of interwoven frequencies mingle within you. Pick up on the dance of communication. You can learn to feel it and comprehend the messages. Strengthening the strands linking all will help us become worthy stewards who collectively create bliss on earth. We will stop bringing pain to each other and to all on our planet. As we bond together, we will act as a unified, synchronized presence. One pebble dropped into the ocean is felt by the whole sea. Rumi. We are inseparably connected, the earth and all her creatures, including us. Everything is made of the same components. Our bodies came from the earth and will one day return to the earth. Everything we do affects every part of the association and every single one of us. In essence, we are all one. We all participate in the shaping of our world through the molding of our portion of existence. Our oneness is comprised of the interwoven totality of our individual parts. Divisions, margins, and boundaries, though useful to allow things to stand out from one another, are often arbitrary, artificial conventions. Even on a purely physical level, no one and nothing has ever existed in an isolated, contained space. We interact with the air around us and the environment we are in. Even our bodies, which appear to be ours alone, contain more DNA inside that is not ours and is not even human. We host more bacterial cells than human cells. We have 2 to 3 pounds of microbes in our gut alone. These microscopic organisms cohabit the same grand body and cooperate seamlessly together to maintain function. To these bacteria, our bodies may appear as expansive as the universe. Though we may not regularly consider our teeny microbial counterparts, we can't exclude them as part of us, and indeed, without them, we would cease to be. In David Wilcock's book, The Source Field Investigations, Cleve Baxter's findings are summarized. Cleve was a well-regarded CIA-trained polygraph expert, and his evaluation charts are still used to this day. After 18 years of testing humans, Cleve started to test the electrical responses of other life forms. He became well known for determining that plants have awareness, and he showed that they exhibit responses to threats in a similar way that humans do. Interestingly, polygraph tests showed that plants respond to a threat when the threat has simply been thought. It does not even need to be acted upon. He found that plants bond with the people who care for them and show an excited response when they come into the room. They also show a change when the people who care for them show a significant emotional reaction, like being excited, sad, ecstatic, or angry. This effect takes place regardless of the distance between the plant and the caregiving person. The person can be hundreds of miles away and the reactions are simultaneous. He also found that plants and other life forms, like eggs, yogurt bacteria, and even skin cells, have an awareness of each other. He found that everything is in a constant state of interaction. If one life form exhibits stress, death, or suffering, all of them display electrical responses on a polygraph. Distance doesn't affect this finding, and neither does electromagnetic shielding with a Faraday cage. He found that skin cells also seem to know what is happening to the person they were removed from. Even when a person is hundreds of miles away, their skin cells exhibit electrical changes that are in sync with emotional stressors or excitement that their person is experiencing. Cleve Baxter's studies illustrate how life forms affect each other and interact with each other. They also suggest that distance plays no role when it comes to the instantaneous reaction between life forms. It is as though distance is an illusion and we are never really separated at all. We are blessed by the physical division between each other and all other things. These perceived differences give us an appreciation of the beauty in life and the ability to learn from all things. The variation, the colors, the shapes, the fragrances, the purposes, these are the gifts and the wonder of creation. The variances can spark a tender compassion. Contrary to the long upheld theory of the survival of the fittest, research is confirming that nature is cooperative. Groups of species, including people, survive and thrive because they work collaboratively as a compassionate group, not because they fight for resources amongst each other. Interspecies, groups, and the entire ecosystem balance themselves agreeably, guided by a harmonious connecting wisdom. An organization called HeartMath explores and validates interconnectedness. This important work opens our minds and hearts to the far-reaching implications of unity. During studies, their scientists measured the following results. Human and animal health, cognitive functions, emotions, and behavior are affected by planetary magnetic and energetic fields. The Earth's magnetic fields are carriers of biologically relevant information that connects all living systems. Each individual affects the global information field. Large numbers of people creating heart-centered states of care, love, and compassion will generate a more coherent field environment that can benefit others and help offset the current planet-wide discord and incoherence. The idea that in our reality, every portion contains the encoding of the whole, or the oversight and knowledge of the whole, can be compared to a holograph. A holograph is produced when a laser beam is split and the rays are focused on an image. The interacting lasers create a wave pattern and the arrangement is recorded on film. The pattern can be likened to the interaction between circles of waves on the surface of a lake formed after the rocks are thrown in. The area where the lasers collide produce interference patterns. The recorded interference patterns display the entire 3D image on the film. When holographic film is cut into portions, regardless how small, the sections always depict a perfect representation of the whole image. Every section is a fractal image of the whole. The theory that we are living in and interacting with a holographic reality is one that has some strong support. The holographic theory can explain how nature and the world appear to operate impeccably. We see this in flocks of birds and schools of fish when they travel in a perfectly coordinated dance, moving as a single fluid unit. Reactions and responses within animals are too complex, coordinated, and rapid to be solely dependent upon biochemical reactions. We could surmise there is an informing and all-encompassing structure that provides information needed. In this way, all life is able to adapt to change and seek to attain perfect balance and harmony. Another example is how human stem cells will transform into whatever type of cells they are placed next to. They can become a hair cell when placed in a petri dish with other hair cells, or become a red blood cell when in their company. They are encoded to contain the entire human genetic framework and have the innate ability to turn into any body part required. Each stem cell is essentially a holographic portion of the whole body. At the subquantum level, physicists know that space and distance do not hinder the brilliant communication of atomic parts. As Elaine Aspect's 1982 experiment demonstrated, reactions between affiliated photons are instantaneous, even faster than light. This immediate coordinated response exists regardless of the distance between the parts. So atoms, considered by many to be the building blocks of everything, are never really separated. The distance between them is only a material perception. They behave in a synchronized fashion, and they behave non-locally, as though space between them does not exist at all. All points in space are equal to all other points in space. They are connected by an invisible, informing web. Einstein called this entanglement phenomenon spooky action at a distance. Subatomic parts behave like holographic fractals, with each portion holding the information of the whole within. So if each portion contains the information of the whole, isn't that another way of saying all is connected? All is ultimately one? Everything is ultimately made up of atomic particles, including photons, neutrons, and electrons. These parts contain and comprise energy. At this level, the dividing line between matter and energy is very blurry. Atoms can be viewed with powerful microscopes as in constant motion and appear to contain little but spinning vortices of energy. Atoms have been shown to hold awareness and can even change their behavior to either that of a particle or an energy wave when they know they are being observed. Energy is continually interacting with the energy around it, in everyone and in everything. Like a holograph, energy waves crisscross to form interference patterns. We are constantly interacting with each other's and the entire Earth's vibrational energy field, picking up information from around us and providing our own energy to the intricate system. It is all part of an interlaced, intelligent, greater whole. There is a multifaceted feedback system between all parts of this mind-like whole. We create a self-organizing web that observes, learns, analyzes, and responds to itself through the informing interactions of its parts. What information are you providing to the greater, coordinated whole? Interconnectedness can be elucidated by the Hindu teaching of the metaphor of the jeweled net of Indra. The Vedic emperor of the gods, Indra, is said to have a net over his palace that contains an infinite number of clear, reflective jewels. Each jewel reproduces each other's images, so all reflections appear in each jewel. When you gaze upon one jewel, you can see all the jewels. There are no separate jewels. These infinite reflections symbolize and encompass the connection and oneness of all. Rupert Sheldrake writes about a morphogenic field that informs the habits and collected knowledge of a species. He theorizes that our brains act like TV antennae to tune into an information field that is shared by other members of our species through morphogenic resonance. It is known that one individual may take a long time to acquire a new skill and to teach it to others. But once the new skill has been learned by a critical mass of the species, the new knowledge will spread rapidly among the rest of the species. It is recognized that a small group of collective peaceful meditators have a corresponding measurable reduction on violence. This phenomena is well studied and often referred to as the Maharishi effect. Ancient and hidden wisdom suggests that humankind has the ability to tap into the knowledge of the cosmos because it is embedded within us. The Akashic records, said to contain all experience and knowledge at any point in time, past or future, can be accessed by some, probably the most famous person being Edgar Cayce. Carl Jung believed that the personal unconscious in each of us is a holographic portion of the larger collective unconscious. He concluded that we are informed and influenced by our timeless, resonant, communal legends. Cultures share the same myths, dreams, stories, and visions, which we relate to individually on a profound level. There is seamless harmony and order in the ways of the universe. We may have challenges in truly being able to understand the laws orchestrating this coherence. Perhaps the limits of our earthbound perception, material sense, language, and systems of evaluation aren't adequate in cracking the code. Our concepts tend to be limited to that which we can experience, so some truths remain ineffable. Like the characters in Plato's Allegory of the Cave, our concept of reality from the material viewpoint is restricted to what we can see, hear, feel, and surmise. For greater understanding, it seems we need to cultivate an expanded and open mind. It is beneficial to stand back and look at seemingly divisive concepts as portions of the whole. It is not the further partitioning of knowledge and seeking of differences, but rather the cooperation between them that makes for a coherent whole. Aligning our consciousness with everything and feeling a sense of connection with all opens up our understanding to levels beyond that which can be achieved by individual sense and rationality alone. This expanded consciousness, expanded love, and greater purpose is something that individuals can achieve through their own unique path. Some astronauts have said they were struck with this feeling when gazing upon our Earth from space. Edgar Mitchell, the late Apollo 14 astronaut, eloquently explained in The Way of the Explorer how his epiphany led him to feeling an ecstasy of unity. It is essentially the healing of a duality, which is what I experienced in the heavens, or at least that's what I came to believe. Not only was there a sense of unity and wholeness with the cosmos, but also a duality, a schism, between my early religious upbringing and my later scientific training was suddenly and quietly reconciled to a meaningful degree. It was this new level of understanding that produced a potent sense of visceral knowing, the kind of understanding that you feel throughout your body as well as know with your mind. Love is an absolute truth, closely aligned with the truth of oneness. It is the greatest unifying force, and it persists beyond material change. Loving energy works to bring everything into harmony. The force of love whispers to us through intuition, through moments of lucidity, quietly, yet powerfully. Love is the source behind true creation. It is the creative spirit of the inclusive, holistic, natural world. Love is the force that will overcome the misguided experimentation that has resulted in miscreation. Love is the power that will heal the desecration of a splintered existence. It is love that endures after our loved ones have passed. It is love that gives us strength to go on under the most difficult circumstances. It is love that liberates us from fear. It is love that encourages enemies to befriend one another. It is love that invokes a nurturing response that can cross species. When influenced by love, animals that normally prey upon another can be seen caring for the young of their prey. It is love that motivates us to be of service. It is love that frees us from evil. It is love that inspires us to transmute darkness to light, to return it to its original form. It is love that reminds us that our consciousness is connected to each other and to all that is. It is love that inspires us to savor each moment and to live each moment in joy. The Law of One suggests an exercise to help us know the Creator. It consists of these 4 steps. Realize that the moment contains love. The universe is one being. When you view another, see the Creator. Gaze within a mirror, see the Creator. Gaze at the creation, which lies about the mind, body, spirit of each entity. See the Creator. The foundation for these exercises is meditation, contemplation, or prayer. These can then be processed into the roots of the tree mind and touch the spirit. Edgar Cayce said, "We should do good for good's sake. It brings contentment, harmony, joy, hope, peace, and knowledge of the source of good. Love, mercy, and justice eschew evil, and keep thy heart singing all the while." Unity is the calm, the peace, the deep sleep, the restoration, the will, the joy, the meaning, and the belonging. Unity and love are the invisible threads tying the individual parts together. Unity is the unseen, interconnected web of frequencies, waves, and energies. It is the blending of the intentions and experiences of all things. It is the ineffable within our soul. It is the conscious awareness of the Great One. The partitioning of divine creation into distinct, dissimilar, and self-contained parts is an unnatural concept. The divine is in each of us, and we are each in the divine. Uplift another, and you do the same for yourself. Harm another, and you injure yourself. We are made of the same star stuff, the same light, and we all want to know, share, and experience the same, love and belonging. We each display our own celestial light fragment, and we all have something special to bring forth. Our thoughts are powerful inventive catalysts when attuned to the whole. When ideas, the soul, feelings, and expanded consciousness are brought together, we can exercise our creatorship in alignment with Source, and we can be of service to humanity in this way. Here's another quote from Ra, the Law of One. "The best way of service to others is the constant attempt to seek to share the love of the Creator as it is known to the inner self. This involves self-knowledge and the ability to open the self to the other without hesitation and radiate that which is the essence or the heart.